All I say is reproduced below for web translators. This clip is not meant to be of a homily type. It is meant to delve into the mechanics of death and how the lover of our souls saves us. Doctrinally, death is the separation of body and soul prior to individual or particular judgment. I am focusing on when this separation can occur and what can go on immediately before that leads to a soul's salvation. There has always been a belief that the soul does not necessarily immediately leave the body. For this reason, a priest should even attend a morgue to administer the sacrament of extreme unction. Equally so when called to a fatal road crash or a murder or any accident. Our investigation is not in the realm of doctrine, but rather that of opinion. But this will mean that one can only express an opinion on the matter, but having said that, I do say it is a pious part of tradition. Our opinions, though, should have some base. This base can come from the saints and mystics, and I will be giving some examples. Let us begin with St. Alphonsus de Liguori. In his Glories of Mary, he quotes two stories. The first can be seen at the link below, which is a transcript of the book, and reads, "In the country of Normandy, a certain robber was beheaded, and his head was thrown into a trench. But afterwards it was heard crying, 'Mary, give me confession.' A priest went to him and heard his confession, and questioning him as to his practices of devotion, the robber answered that he had no other except that of fasting one day of the week in honour of the Holy Virgin, and that for this Our Lady had obtained for him the grace to be delivered from hell by that confession." Note that physical death had taken place, but not the separation of body and soul. I cannot find the link to the second story, but it goes like this. An emperor was crossing the Swiss Alps into Italy. I've actually done that road trip in spring. It's absolutely beautiful. Through Tyrol. I'll start again. An emperor was crossing the Swiss Alps into Italy when they came across a dead soldier whose body was totally decayed. A voice was heard coming from the skeleton asking for a priest. A priest was called and heard his confession. Once again, it was a case of a promise being made by a lady due to a devotion. Padre Pio de Petrocini was asked in the confessional if Mussolini was saved. His reply that he was saved due to the manner of his death. In other words, he did reparation. If you go to YouTube, you can see clips of how he was hung up by the ankles. When viewing such a clip, be mindful that in all probability the soul had not yet left the body. Another story comes from Catherine Emmerich in the Life of Jesus Christ and Biblical Revelations. Now the link to that is below. I actually scanned these 4 volumes and combined them into one large volume. So that's why you get such a high page number, which I'm about to refer to. If you go to PDF page 2014, you will read Jesus after his resurrection. Now she's delving into his activity after he rose from the dead. "I saw Jesus with the souls on great battlefields, explaining to them how they had been led to salvation. As he was speaking, I saw visions of the battles and everything connected with them, just as if they were going on under my eyes." How do we explain something like this? time as we experience it was not in play. Yet these soldiers were being saved by their souls not leaving their bodies till a determined moment. To understand better these moments of our salvation prior to the soul leaving the body, we must distinguish between angelic nature and human nature. The angels had no weakness in their faculties. Intelligence, memory. An act of their will was at full strength, hence their immediate judgment or not. Not so man. We deliberate and choose. And being in a fallen state, we do not have full use of our faculties. But in this state between physical death and the soul leaving the body, we are given the full powers of our faculties so that we can choose definitively for or against him. Each instant of our existence is present to us, and we now apply the fullness of our powers to that circumstance for our salvation or condemnation. That little sweet old lady who from time to time was heard to say that she would never forgive Marcia for what she did to her. Now in this state, this little sweet old lady must decide for all eternity. Does she forgive Marcia and be saved, or does she refuse to do so, by which this act now becomes an act of hatred of God, and the soul is lost for all eternity? When considering this lapse between physical death and the soul leaving the body, we see the true meaning of that outside of the church there is no salvation, which means that God is just and gives souls the opportunity of salvation. Simply put, salvation is choosing to love or hate God for all eternity. This is the magnificence of our beings, that we can freely love our Creator of our own free will. This is why a creature must be tested. Only one creature was never tested, and that was Our Lady. Such was the grandeur of her creation. This is why it is said that when God created Mary, he broke the mould. Note that her earthly merits were for the church. Some argue that physical water must be used for baptism. They do not see that water, blood and spirit are one. I'm referencing St. John there. And to conclude, are we not truly blessed that this lover of our souls will go to great lengths to save us? And as I wrote that, I suddenly thought of that old saying that only a mother could love a face like that. Is that not us?